In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my actual investment portfolio, where all I invest in, which markets, what are some of the considerations that I keep in mind, etc. Hi everyone, welcome to Insider Gyan. My name is Soumi. I'm an IIT Delhi and ISB Hyderabad alum, and I have been working in the banking sector and in the management consulting sector for about 8-9 years now. On this channel, I share my experiences, I get my friends to share their experiences so that some of you can take away something important about your careers as well. So if that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, now starting with today's video. The reason why I'm making this video is because times and again, especially in my money related videos, salary related videos, or personal finance related videos, a lot of you guys have dropped comments saying, how do I manage my money? So that's exactly what I'm about to share with you in this video. A few disclaimers. Firstly, I am sort of a personal finance noob, I would say. I am learning as I get along the way. Secondly, do note that I am not a financial advisor, right? Please do your own research. Please see what works for you, because investments and finances are very personal. There's a reason why it is called personal finance. The main reason is because everyone is in a different situation. Everyone has a different risk appetite as well, based on what stage of life they're at, what kind of liabilities you have. So based on all of those, you can take your own call. But the purpose of this video is just to sort of give you an insight into what I do with my money, and in the process also inspire some of you to start investing as soon as possible as well, because money loses value with time. Okay, so let's start with how much I invest every month. Now, whatever my earnings are, I would say about 70 to 80% of my earnings go in investments, and I have been actively investing also for the last 4-5 years, which means that in the first few years, first 3 or 4 years, whatever I was earning, which is why I have some surplus from those times as well, which also I used to invest. In the next section, let me tell you a little bit about where all I invest and what percentage of my portfolio goes where. So number one, I definitely invest in the Indian markets, because I definitely believe in the India growth story, which is why a lot of my money is parked in the Indian markets. Secondly, I also invest a little bit in the US and China markets. China because it's such a huge economy, and US of course because it's stable year on year, it has provided returns which are higher. And lastly, I also have some investments in cryptocurrency. From a percentage perspective, I would say about 50% of my money is parked in the Indian markets, 40% in the US and China markets, a combination of US and China markets, and about 10% in the cryptocurrencies. In the next section, I'm going to tell you all about what are some of my considerations when investing in each of these markets, as well as what returns I have gotten in the past few years as well. But overall, I would say my strategy is to sort of invest in a passive manner. I invest in things like funds, in mutual funds, in exchange traded funds, where a lot of my personal bandwidth doesn't go into researching where I have to invest in. And the reason is really twofold. One is because I'm not an expert, and because I usually don't have enough time bandwidth to sort of research on each of the stocks. And secondly, there are a lot of company policies, which sort of restrict you from investing in individual stocks as well, especially in my case, because firstly, I work in a consulting company, which means I work with clients. Then my husband works in an investment bank, which means both of us, between the two of us, we can have a lot of MNPI. We may know if this company is going to do better next year. We may have some confidential information, which is why all of these big companies, investment banks, and some consulting companies as well, they'll always ask you to declare your stock portfolio, your investments. And if you are investing in funds where you'll have less control, those are okay. But if you are investing in individual stocks where you have more control, then you have to take specific permissions. So we don't really, because of time, and we don't really want to go into those hassles, which is why we sort of stick to funds and exchange traded funds, etc. So in the Indian markets, I have been investing for the last 4 to 5 years. And I do what is called a SIP, which is a systematic investment plan, which means every month I have put all the mutual funds that I want to invest in, I've connected them to my bank account, and every month, without any sort of involvement from me, the money is automatically deducted from my bank account. I would have, I think, about 15 funds that I have invested in, and about 15 to 20,000 every month goes into each of the funds. In terms of exposure, I haven't really sat down and calculated the sector exposure that I have, because India overall is a growth story, right? But I do know for a fact that 90% of my exposure is in equities and only about 10% is in the debt or the index funds. And that works well for me because equity markets always outperform. They are more volatile, but they always outperform in the long run. And my overall strategy is to stay invested for the long run. I just want to park my money and take them out only when I need it, be it 10 years down the lane, be it 15 years down the lane, whenever. In terms of platform, I use MyCamps. Now talking about the returns that I've got in the Indian markets. The MyCamps dashboard tells me that my annualized returns has been about 35%, which I think is quite good for a mutual fund, because I think I've mainly chosen some of the bigger names, and of course India has had a huge growth in the last 1 or 2 years as well. So it's a combination of all of these factors. Now let me share some tips which, if you are an early investor, you might find these helpful. And just to name a few fund houses that we have invested in are HDFC, there's Kotak, there's Tata, there's Aditya Birla Group, there's ICICI, so all the reputed funds. Number one consideration that we had sort of taken into account when doing the research for which funds to invest in, number one was historical performance. Now, historical performance definitely doesn't tell you anything about the future performance, but since we are investing in mutual funds, it does tell you a little bit about how good the fund managers are. If the historical performance has been good, it tells you a little bit about the company as well, that the company is serious about, managing their funds. If, for example, the fund manager quits, the current fund manager quits, you can sort of trust on that brand that they'll replace him or her with another fund manager who is equally good. The second consideration is diversification. I mean, of course, you don't want to park all your money in 1 or 2 funds. You want to diversify within sectors. If you have a specific sector that you are bullish about, then you want to invest in that sector. But at the same time, some of the other stable sectors you want to invest in and manage exposure that you have. Secondly, in terms of diversification, we try to do a equity index fund diversification as well. Based on our risk appetite, based on our outlook, we would park certain amount of money in equities versus index funds. Equities are more volatile, which means that especially on the short run, you can gain a lot of money, but you can also lose a lot of money very, very fast. But index funds, they are more stable and they'll give you sort of lesser returns but stable returns in the long run. And lastly, to market capitalization. So we do ensure that we have good exposure across small cap companies, across mid cap companies, and across large cap companies. So market capitalization is basically, in layman's terms, it gives you an idea about the size of the company. And smaller size companies are more volatile because if there's something happening with the economy, then the smaller companies are going to be impacted most. But the smaller cap companies are also the ones which are going to grow fast in the next few years. And then large caps are sort of to mitigate the risk, because large cap companies, for example, HUL or ITC, they will perform stably year on year. The third thing to keep in mind while investing in mutual funds is the expense ratio. Mutual funds have a lot of their own expenses as well, right? So when you are entering the mutual funds or when you are exiting the mutual funds, there are certain percentages of your profit that will be taken off, which is called the entry and the exit load. And expense ratio is essentially a metric which gives you an idea about what are the expenses that are charged to you to manage the mutual fund by the fund manager versus what are the returns they are able to generate. In absolute terms, those numbers are not too different. For example, it can be just 1% for one fund versus 1.5% or 2% for another fund. But when you calculate the actual amount, not in terms of percentage points, but the actual amount, and based on the amount, the overall amount that you have invested in, it does add up quite a bit. So definitely you guys should look into the expense ratios before investing in the mutual funds. When we are using MyCAMS, and I'm not sure if that's the case for Zerodha as well, I'm guessing it should be, for each of the funds or for wherever it's applicable, there'll be a regular fund and there'll be a direct fund. So the direct fund is where you are investing directly without involvement of any broker, and in the regular fund is where a broker is involved as well. So as you can imagine, the direct fund is going to have lesser charges. It's not going to take into account the brokerage charges. In case you see the same fund in a direct and a regular one, you should always go for the direct one. Okay, then moving to the fourth criteria, consideration you can call it, is dividends. Right, a lot of the companies will actually give you dividends, and based on your needs. For example, if you actually need cash flow on a regular basis, you might actively want to invest in places where you can get some dividends out of it. But in places where you really don't need that cash flow, that additional cash flow, you can choose to sort of reinvest that dividend and increase the number of units of the mutual fund that you own. And the last factor that I usually keep in mind is to sort of keep the fund houses a little consolidated. Like, I do want to invest in say 15-20 funds, but I want to ensure that they are all reputed, and if that means that there are just 5 fund houses that I'm investing in, I prefer that. Within those 5 brands, then I would try to invest in multiple funds. So for example, I know that Kotak is a great fund house. So within Kotak, I would try to invest in a small cap fund, say for instance, in a mid cap fund or in a diversified fund. Okay, so that was all for the Indian markets, and I wanted to spend most time over here because I know most of my audience is from India, so maybe some of it will be helpful for you as well, some actionable points you could take away from it. Now moving to the next investment that I make, which is in the US and the China markets. So firstly, to be honest, I have been investing in US and China markets only for the last 5 to 6 months, I would say. Mostly my income that I have generated in the last 2 years in Singapore goes into these fund houses. But since I'm sort of actively investing now, I'm parking huge chunks of money in those markets, which is why in India, despite me investing for the last 4 or 5 years, it's just 50% of my overall portfolio. But just in the last 5 months, the US and China markets have taken up about 40% of my portfolio, and in the coming 1 year or so, it'll probably be 60-70% of my overall portfolio. Where do I invest in US and China? It's mostly in the exchange traded funds. Now, exchange traded funds are slightly different from mutual funds because the exchange traded funds are sort of just following a specific exchange. For US, it could be a NASDAQ or an NYSE, which is the New York Stock Exchange. So in that sense, the exchange traded funds are a little more passive compared to mutual funds, because in the mutual funds there's actually a fund manager who sort of plays around with the portfolio structure, weightages, and ensures that you are getting above market returns. But on exchange traded funds, they are more or less just following an index. So if the index is outperforming the market, then the ETF or the exchange traded fund will also outperform the market, and vice versa. Now, if I have to talk about my exposure within US and China, in terms of location and region, about 10% of the overall 40% is invested in China markets. About 10% is in emerging markets in Southeast Asia, which is places like Singapore, and emerging markets is a combination of China, India, and the SEA countries, like the Southeast Asian countries. And 80% of the wealth is totally exposed to the US side of things. In China, it's sort of heavily distorted towards China technology companies. But in US, I've tried to keep it slightly more diversified. It is still very heavy on tech. About 50 to 60% I would say is in US tech. The rest is a good balance between, say, healthcare or consumer, financial services. In the last 5-6 months, the amount of returns that I've got from this investment is about 11% on absolute, which means if you annualize it, it comes to somewhere around 15-ish percentage. To be honest, I have lost a lot of money in China tech, but because I had a heavier investment in US, it sort of made up for it. And most of the money that I have made is in the US markets itself. And within US markets also, it's the small cap tech companies, cloud computing, and the other kind of tech companies that are there. Because if you remember, as I said, small cap companies are volatile, which means they'll give you a lot of returns in the short term, but they're also risky, which means that they can just go kaput in no time as well. So that's the risk that you bear. Platforms that I use, I'm going to mention it, but I'm not sure how many of you will actually be able to use it because I know a lot of you are based in India. So I use this platform called Saxo and Interactive Brokers. There's no like an SIP kind of a thing where money goes automatically. Every month I actually actively have to go to the portal and invest some of my money in there. But I would say keeping some exposure in the US markets is actually a very good idea overall because US markets are generally more stable and they bounce back quite soon. They have good returns as well. Now moving to Bitcoin or the cryptocurrencies that I've invested in. So crypto, honestly, there has not been any sort of specific strategy, but it's just, I won't even say FOMO, but like, I mean, now that I work in a fintech, I know for a fact that cryptos are going to be big in the future, which is why we sort of invested, I think around 2020, only last year we sort of invested in, and it must have been about a year that we have been invested in cryptos. A huge chunk of it is actually Bitcoin, and then we have some exposure in Ethereum, some in Ripple. All in all, we own one Bitcoin overall between me and my husband, and we bought it at a price, actually a very good price. Initially, when we had bought it, it was, I think, just about 12,000 US dollars. But the overall average price that we have, because we have bought it at different points of time, is I think between 20 to 25,000 US dollars. Today, the price of it is 58,000, I believe, as of the day I'm recording this video, which means that we have already got over 100% return. Now, one thing I do want to mention to you about crypto is that firstly, think about it if you want to invest in crypto or not, and invest only the amount which you think is fully disposable. If you lose the full amount, it won't really have an impact on your life. And secondly, one thing that I want you guys to keep in mind is that crypto is obviously not regulated very well across geographies, right? So you should aim to buy it from a reputed exchange. See where the big influencers of those markets, if you're in India, people like Ankur Warikoo, Rachna Ranade, Akshat Srivastava, where are these people buying from? Buy from those exchanges. The reason being that these exchanges can close anytime, and these exchanges are literally acting as the house, which is acting as an inventory to hold the crypto that you have bought, right? So if they close, then you lose your money. The other way is, of course, once you have bought it, you can download it into a secure pen drive and keep it with you. And that needs to be really, really secure with a password and everything. And by the way, if you forget your password, you lose your money again. So just be mindful of all these things. These are some of the security issues that come with crypto. And as of now, I think that's where we are at. I'm sure at the pace technology is changing, there'll be better ways to store crypto and manage crypto as well. But yeah, I just wanted to share those because those were some of the things that we had thought about when investing in crypto as well. Other than all of these instruments, I do invest a little bit in, say, PPFs and insurances, etc. But the only reason I haven't shared them over here is because they are sort of BAU, like business as usual. Everyone does invest in those kind of instruments as well, right? And they are not not, they don't form a huge chunk of my overall investment portfolio as well. That's all I wanted to share in this video. Hope you guys took away something helpful from it. Please let me know in the comments if you did and what were the things that you took away from it. Definitely give it a like if you took away something from it. Please subscribe because it's absolutely free for you, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Till then, bye.